Hey there, I'm Avip. Welcome to the audiobook of my fanfic Marvel's Amazing Superman. I don't own Superman or any Marvel characters. This is a non-profit fan project made just for fun and shared for free. All rights belong to their original creators. Before we start, I want to let you know that since I'm not fluent in speaking English yet, the narration is AI generated. I hope you still enjoy the story and the world I've created. Thanks for listening.
New York City wakes to a symphony of honks, distant sirens, and the steady rumble of the subway. The air is thick with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the sweet, doughy scent of street cart bagels. Central Park's trees are a lush green, their leaves sparkling with dew, as joggers pound the pavement, earbuds firmly in place. The city throbs with life, each person a tiny cog in the massive machine that is New York City. And like many days in the city, crime rises to action as an alarm pierces the air. Breathe. The alarm blares from a bank on Fifth Avenue. Panic ripples through the crowd as a massive, muscular figure bursts through the bank's doors. Clad in a gray suit, the figure's most striking feature is a prominent horn in the center of his forehead. He throws his head back, laughter booming like thunder. "Nobody stops the rhino," he roars, hefting two bulging sacks of cash. Pedestrians scream and scatter. A hot dog vendor abandons his cart, running for cover. Traffic grinds to a halt as drivers gawk at the spectacle. A taxi driver, grizzled and seasoned, curses under his breath. "Not again," he mutters, slamming his hands on the steering wheel. The rhino charges down the street, swiping at anything in his path. A mailbox goes flying, spilling letters like confetti. A parking meter is uprooted, change clattering across the pavement. Chaos erupts in his wake, but the rhino doesn't slow. He plows through the gridlock, sending cars spinning. "Out of my way," he bellows, veins popping in his neck. A bicycle messenger skids to a halt, eyes wide. "Hey, you can't." The bicycle messenger's words cut off as something yanks him backward, his bike clattering to the ground. The rhino grunts, confusion furrowing his brow. He turns to see the messenger suspended midair, wriggling like a fish on a line. White webbing stretches from the messenger's back to the lamp post above, shimmering in the sunlight. The rhino's eyes widen, a snarl curling his lip. "Spider-Man," he roars, the name echoing through the street like a curse. A figure in red and blue swoops down from above, landing lightly on the pavement. His eyes, obscured by a red mask, crinkle at the corners as he grins. The rhino's snarl deepens as Spider-Man lands, his grin never wavering. "Alexei Sitsovic," Spider-Man begins, voice stern. "You could have killed this poor gig worker." The rhino's eyes flash with anger. "Don't you say my name," he roars, charging. Spider-Man leaps, dodging the rhino's charge with ease, sending the behemoth to the other side of the street. The bike messenger, still dangling, starts explaining. "Actually, I'm not a gig worker," he calls out, struggling. "I am fully employed by the company I deliver." Spider-Man flips, landing on a lamppost. He cocks his head, looking down at the messenger. "For real?" "Yeah," the messenger grunts, trying to free himself. "I get paid by the hour and have several benefits." The rhino regains his footing, shaking his head like a bull ready to charge. Spider-Man holds up a hand, one finger raised. "Hold that thought, Alexei," he says, before turning back to the messenger. "So, this company of yours, are they hiring?" The messenger blinks, surprised. Yeah. Yeah, they are." "Why?" Spider-Man leaps from the lamppost, somersaulting in the air to land in front of the rhino. "Got a kid about to start college," he says conversationally. "He's gonna need the cash." The rhino's face reddens, muscles bulging as he roars. "I'll crush you, bug." Spider-Man's grin fades, irritation flickering in his eyes. "Seriously, Alexei?" he retorts, sarcasm dripping from his voice. "We've been doing this dance for years. How many times do I have to tell you? Spiders are arachnids, not insects." He flips backward just as the rhino's massive fist slams into the pavement where he stood moments before. The ground quakes, a crater yawning open. Car alarms wail, adding to the chaotic cacophony. Spider-Man lands on the side of a building, clinging effortlessly. He shakes his head. You really ought to brush up on your biology, big guy. The rhino's eyes narrow, a deep growl resonating in his chest. He charges again, but Spider-Man is already on the move, bounding from wall to wall, leaving the rhino to smash through a hot dog stand. Steam hisses from the broken cart, wieners rolling across the pavement. The vendor, a burly man with a thick beard, throws his hands up. Come on, man, he shouts, shaking his fist at the rhino. I just set that up. The rhino stumbles, shaking fragments of the hot dog stand from his shoulders and the tip of his horn. His breath comes in ragged gasps, chest heaving as he turns, scanning the street for his elusive foe. Why do you dodge but don't fight me, serious? He bellows, frustration etched on his face. Spider-Man perches on a traffic signal, arms crossed. His head tilts, the stark black eyes of his mask boring into the rhino. You know me. I never pass up a fight against an animal-themed villain, he says joyfully. But that's not what I'm here for, Alexei. The rhino blinks, confusion momentarily replacing anger. What do you mean? Spider-Man's mask creases at the corners of his eyes, a smirk playing on his lips. I'm just here to keep people from getting hurt. You know, that whole responsibility thing. The rhino's brow furrows, a deep growl resonating in his chest. So what? You're not going to fight me? Spider-Man chuckles, shaking his head. Not today, Alexei. Today is a special day. He pauses, leaning forward, the smirk on his face widening. Today is the debut of the amazing Superman. As the last syllable leaves Spider-Man's lips, a sudden whoosh echoes through the air. A figure plummets from the sky, slamming into the pavement with a force that sends a small shockwave rippling through the street. Boom. Cars bounce, alarms blare. The figure straightens, striking a pose with a puffed-out chest and confident smile. His suit, a brilliant blue, hugs his frame, emphasizing every muscle. The iconic S emblem blazes across his chest, a beacon of hope in red and gold. A crimson belt circles his waist, matching the red trunks that harken back to a simpler time. His feet are clad in sturdy red boots. A rugged black leather jacket adds an air of toughness to his look. His eyes, concealed by a blue mask with white lenses, gleam with determination. His bare hands clench at his sides, ready for action. The rhino stares, jaw agape. Spider-Man, still perched, lets out a low whistle. Now that's an entrance, he mutters, a hint of admiration in his voice. But we need to have a talk about collateral damage. Superman's eyes flick to Spider-Man, offering a nod of acknowledgement before turning to the rhino. His voice, deep and resonant, rings out. Rhino, your days of rampaging through the city end now. The rhino, instead of charging or roaring, stands stock still, mouth agape beneath his gray hood. His beady eyes, usually ablaze with fury, are wide and disbelieving. He tilts his head, the massive horn jutting from his forehead glinting dully in the sunlight. Wait a sec, he rumbles with hands raised, a note of bewilderment in his voice. Your name's really Superman? Superman, taken aback, pauses. A faint flush creeps up his neck, visible even through the collar of his jacket. He clears his throat, standing a bit straighter. Yeah, it is. For a moment, the rhino just stares. Then, like a dam bursting, laughter erupts from deep within his chest. It's a booming sound, filled with genuine amusement rather than malice. He doubles over, hands on his knees, laughter shaking his massive frame. Superman's flush deepens as his eyes dart to Spider-Man, who merely shrugs. I did warn you, kid, Spider-Man says, a hint of sympathy in his voice. The name's a bit on the nose. The rhino straightens, wiping a tear from his eye and still chuckling. He shakes his head, grinning wide. Superman, he scoffs, crossing his thick arms over his chest. Really? Was Hero Guy already taken? Spider-Man winces, looking at Superman with something akin to pity. Ouch, he mutters. Getting roasted by the rhino on your first day out. That's gotta sting. Superman's jaw tightens, and his eyes narrow as he takes a step forward, fists clenched at his sides. The rhino's grin fades, his eyes gleaming with a familiar spark of aggression. "You want to go, pretty boy?" he growls, cracking his knuckles. "I could use another good laugh." Superman's scowl deepens, but a voice gets his attention. "Don't fight in anger," Spider-Man calls from afar. "You should be the one making him mad." "Thanks, Dad," Superman mutters in a serious tone, cocking his fist. "Wait," the rhino interrupts. "Did you call him Dad? For real?" Instead of responding, Superman's fist connects with the rhino's jaw, the force of the blow sending the behemoth staggering back. His feet grind against the pavement, each step thunderous. He shakes his head, working his jaw back and forth. "All right, kid," he grunts, a gleam of respect in his eyes. "You can throw a punch. Let's see how you take one." The rhino charges, his massive form picking up speed like a freight train. Superman stands his ground, body tensing. At the last moment, he sidesteps, allowing the rhino to barrel past him. Superman's hands lash out, grabbing the rhino's horn and using his momentum to slam him headfirst into a nearby lamppost. The metal groans, bending under the impact. The rhino stumbles back, shaking his head like a dazed bull. He turns to Superman, a snarl on his lips. "You're quick, kid," he growls. "But I'm stronger." He lunges, his massive fists swinging like wrecking balls. Superman ducks and weaves, each blow whistling past him. He lands a quick jab to the rhino's ribs, the force rattling the bigger man. The rhino grunts and swings again. Superman leaps back, the rhino's fist slamming into the pavement, leaving a small crater. The fight continues, Superman's speed against the rhino's brute force. Every blow the rhino lands is a thunderclap, shaking the very foundations of the city. But Superman evades most of them, his body a blur of motion. He lands hit after hit, each one precise and calculated. Minutes turn into half an hour. Sweat pours down the rhino's face, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He stumbles, fatigue weighing heavily on his limbs. Superman, too, is breathing hard, but his eyes remain bright and determined. The rhino pauses, hands on his knees, chest heaving. He looks up at Superman, a question in his eyes. "Don't you ever get tired, kid?" He pants. Grinning, Superman quips. "I can do this all day." From his perch, Spider-Man lets out a whoop, punching the air. I understood that reference. The rhino's breaths come in ragged gasps, his massive chest heaving like a bellows. His tree-trunk legs, once steady as stone, begin to tremble, the relentless exchange with Superman finally taking its toll. Superman notices the tremors, the slight wobble in the behemoth's stance. He pauses, straightening from his combat crouch, eyes locked onto the rhino's. "Mr. Alexei," he begins, his voice steady and respectful. The rhino blinks, confusion momentarily eclipsing his fatigue. From his perch, Spider-Man tilts his head, brows furrowing beneath his mask. "Mr. Alexei?" They echo in unison, both surprised. Superman nods, his stance relaxing and hands unclenching. "We don't have to continue this fight." The rhino's eyes widened, a deep growl resonating in his chest. He straightens, rolling his shoulders back and clenching his fists. "You think I'm weak?" he roars, spittle flying from his lips. "You think I'm not worthy of your time?" Superman raises his brows, surprise flickering in his eyes. He shakes his head, hands raised in a placating gesture. "That's not what I meant. I don't want to hurt you." The rhino's growl deepens, a sound of disbelief and anger. "Hurt me," he scoffs. "You think you can hurt me, pretty boy?" Superman's expression softens, a touch of sadness in his eyes. He steps closer, his voice lowering and earnest. "You wanted the money from the bank, not to hurt people or do something like conquer the world. If you surrender now, you'll get a lighter sentence." The rhino blinks, confusion washing over his features. He shakes his head, as if trying to clear it. "Why do you care?" he growls, though the edge in his voice has dulled, morphing into something more akin to curiosity. Superman's gaze keeps steady and sincere. "You deserve a chance." The young man continues. "The same one you gave my father when you could kill him while holding a newborn baby." The rhino stares at Superman as if seeing him for the first time. His fists unclench, arms dropping to his sides. The fight drains from his stance, leaving only weariness behind. Spider-Man, watching from above, lets out a low whistle. "Well, would you look at that?" he murmurs, a hint of admiration in his voice. Superman's expression softens, his eyes brightening. "How do you?" he begins, his voice hoarse, but Superman cuts him off, his tone gentle yet firm. "I heard about it," he says, taking a step closer, his hand reaching out, almost touching the rhino's arm. "I've seen the choices you've made when no one else was looking. I've seen the lives you've spared when you could have taken them to avenge your wife." The rhino shudders again, the memory of that day flooding back. He remembers the baby, Normie Osborn, so small and helpless. He recalls the bounty, the promise of wealth and vengeance against Spider-Man. But more than that, he remembers the choice he made, the choice to walk away. "Oksana," he murmurs, her name a soft, painful whisper. "Normie Osborn," he repeats, his voice barely audible. He looks up at Superman, his eyes haunted. "I could have taken him. I could have claimed the reward and killed Spider-Man. But I didn't." Superman nods, a small smile playing on his lips. "No, you didn't," he agrees, his voice steady and sure. "You made a choice that day, Alexei. A choice that proves you're not the monster you think you are." The rhino's eyes widen, surprise and disbelief warring within them. He shakes his head, a deep growl resonating in his chest. "You don't know what you're talking about, kid," he snarls, but the edge in his voice has dulled, morphing into something more akin to desperation. "You don't know the things I've done, the lives I've ruined." Superman's smile fades, his expression sobering. He steps closer, his hand finally resting on the rhino's arm, a gentle, steadying grip. "I don't," Superman mutters as the sound of police sirens approaches in the distance. "But it's up to you how to deal with your past crimes." The rhino's massive hands clench, his knuckles cracking like thunder. He takes a deep breath, the tension in his body easing as he exhales. His eyes, once filled with rage, now hold a quiet resolve. "All right, kid," he rumbles, his voice a low, defeated growl. "I'll do it. I'll turn myself in." Superman's lips curve into a smile, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Alexei," he says, his voice warm with sincerity. The rhino blinks, surprise flickering across his face. Then, he throws his head back, laughter booming from deep within his chest. The sound echoes through the street, loud and genuine. "Mr. Alexei," he repeats, chuckling and shaking his head. "Kid, you're something else. Here I am, dressed like a damn rhino, breaking walls and stealing money, and you're showing me more respect than any mob boss that hired me ever did." Superman's smile turns sheepish, a faint flush creeping up his neck. He rubs the back of his head, chuckling softly. "Well, when you put it that way." He begins, but his words trail off as a familiar figure drops from above, landing beside him with a graceful thud. "Leave the rest to me," Spider-Man says, clapping Superman on the shoulder. "I'll handle the boys in blue. You've got a date with higher education, remember?" Superman's eyes widen, surprise and alarm flashing across his face. He pulls out his phone, the screen displaying the time in bold, accusatory numbers. "Oh no," he mutters, his thumb tracing the edge of the device. "You're right. I'm late." He looks up, his eyes darting from Spider-Man to the rhino, a hint of apology in their depths. "I have to go," he says, already stepping back, his body coiling like a spring. The rhino nods, a small, understanding smile on his lips. "Go on, kid," he rumbles. "Wouldn't want you to miss your first day." Superman grins, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thanks, Mr. Alexei," he says before turning to Spider-Man. "Bye, Dad, I mean." He falters, catching himself. "Spider-Man." Spider-Man sighs, pinching the bridge of his nose beneath his mask. "Just go," he mutters, exasperation evident in his voice. "Before you blow both our covers." Superman nods, a soft laugh escaping his lips. He turns, his body tensing as he crouches low. Then, with a powerful leap, he soars into the air, his form arcing high above the city's streets. The rhino watches him go, a soft chuckle rumbling in his chest. Beside him, Spider-Man sighs, his hand dropping to his side as he shakes his head. "That kid," he mutters, turning to the rhino. "He's got a lot to learn about maintaining a secret identity." The rhino's chuckle deepens, turning into a full-blown laugh. He claps Spider-Man on the shoulder, the force of it nearly sending the smaller man stumbling. "He's a good kid, with potential," Rhino rumbles, his eyes shining with amusement. "Greater than yours at that age." "Yeah," Spider-Man agrees. "You should be proud." Spider-Man's lips quirk, a small smile playing on his face. "More than you could imagine." Superman jumps atop buildings in the concrete jungle, his form a blur against the stark silhouettes of skyscrapers. He lands in a dim alley, the stench of rotting trash and damp asphalt filling his nostrils. With his left hand, he removes the mask as his right hand finds the small, circular button on his belt, activating it with a soft click. The air around him shimmers as his suit, made of unstable molecules, shifts and rearranges. The vibrant blues and reds dull, morphing into simple jeans and a plain white tee. His red boots fade into worn-out sneakers. "Thank you, Uncle Richards," Clark murmurs gratefully. Clark quickly turns his black leather jacket inside out. The supple material transforms into faded denim as he tugs it on, completing his transformation. He steps out of the alley, blending seamlessly into the crowded sidewalk, just another college kid rushing to class. His sneakers slap against the pavement, his breath coming in steady puffs. He dodges slow-moving pedestrians, mumbling apologies as he brushes past them. A cyclist rings their bell, swerving to avoid him. Clark sidesteps, narrowly avoiding a collision. "Sorry," he calls over his shoulder, not breaking stride. He rounds a corner, his eyes landing on the familiar stone facade of Empire State University. The clock tower above tolls the hour, its deep, resonating chimes echoing through the campus grounds. Clark's heart sinks. "Late," he mutters, cold sweat forming. So late. Clark's backpack smacks against a fellow student, sending papers flying as he starts running. "Sorry," he calls out, not stopping. He weaves through the crowded courtyard, leaving a wake of startled students and scattered belongings. His sneakers squeak against the linoleum as he skids into the hallway and then into the classroom. "Empty," he mutters agape. Except for the solitary figure at the front, the room is truly empty. A man, graying at the temples, stands there, his silhouette familiar yet different. "Sorry, I'm late." Clark's voice echoes in the empty room as he takes a few cautious steps forward. The man turns, revealing an empty sleeve pinned to his shoulder. A jolt of recognition hits Clark. "Dr. Connors?" His voice is barely above a whisper. The man's eyes widen, surprise flickering across his face. "And you are?" "Clark," he swallows hard, extending a hand. "Clark Parker." "Clark Parker, you say?" Connor's gaze sharpens, his eyes narrowing as he studies Clark's face. "And do I know you from?" "You don't know me, but you know my father," says Clark with a smile. "Peter Parker's my dad." Connor's face breaks into a wide smile, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Well, I'll be damned. Peter Parker's kid. In my classroom." He chuckles, shaking his head. "I knew he had kids, but time flies, doesn't it?" Clark nods, his grin softening. The friendly atmosphere between the two is shattered as Dr. Connors mutters. "Peter Parker's son, late for the first day of school?" Clark's smile fades, and his shoulders tense. I know. I'm sorry, Dr. Connors. I promise it won't happen again." Connors waves a hand, dismissing the apology. "It's not that, Clark." He pauses, searching Clark's face. Seconds tick by, the silence heavy. Then, softly, "Are you one of them? A superhero, I mean?" Clark's heart stutters.
"What?"
He steps back, his foot catching on a chair leg. He stumbles, arms flailing, grasping for support. The chair topples over, shattering like weak glass against the hard floor. Clark winces, righting himself, his face flushed. Connors raises an eyebrow, a small smirk playing on his lips. Quite the entrance, Clark. Clark's flush deepens, and his hands shoved into his pockets. Yeah, well, I'm not exactly known for my subtlety. Connor's smirk widens, his eyes twinkling with amusement. You know, it took me years to figure out your father's secret identity. Years of battles, near misses, and far too many close calls. He leans back against his desk, arms crossed over his chest. And here you are, blowing your cover on the first day. Not quite the Parker stealth I was expecting. Clark's shoulders slump, his gaze dropping to the floor. Guess I didn't get that particular skill. Connor's expression softens, understanding flickering in his eyes. Don't worry, Clark. Subtlety can be learned. And until you master it. He pushes off from the desk, standing tall. I'll cover for you. Relief washes over Clark, a grateful smile tugging at his lips. But before he can express his thanks, Connors continues. Of course, there'll be extra assignments for the classes you'll miss. Clark's eyes widen, and his smile vanishes. Miss? Dr. Connors, I don't plan on missing any classes. Connors chuckles, a low, knowing sound. Clark, you're a superhero. Plans change, emergencies happen. You'll miss classes. He states it as fact, his tone leaving no room for argument. And when you do, you'll have assignments to complete. Consider it incentive to stay under the radar. Clark's shoulders slump, his backpack sliding down his arm and landing with a thud on the floor. He sighs heavily. You know, I thought saving a bank and stopping a supervillain was going to be the hard part of my day. He rubs a hand over his face, his fingers pressing against his temples. Guess I was wrong. Connor's lips twitch, a hint of sympathy in his eyes. Welcome to college, Clark. He claps him on the back, turning him toward the door. And since you arrived late, your roommates have already been chosen for you. I hope he's a reasonable guy. You are late, Parker, says Clark's roommate in a cold, unreasonable tone. Clark's arms engulf the tiny figure, his joy undeterred by the harsh reception. Normie, he says with glee. It's been forever. Let go of me, you big oaf. Normie squirms, but Clark just laughs, ruffling his cousin's hair. Is it just me, or did you shrink? Says Clark, confused. Normie slaps Clark's hand away, his face flushed. You're the one who grew up too much. How do you even fit through doors with all those muscles? Clark grins, finally releasing Normie. So, how do you end up as my roommate? Last I heard, you were studying abroad. Normie shrugs, straightening his clothes. Changed my mind. Empire State has a better tech program, but I sure could use better roommates. Roommates. Clark repeats, raising an eyebrow. As in more than one? Normie rolls his eyes and gestures to the third bed, neatly made, in the corner. Corner rooms, Parker. 3 of us share this glorious palace. Clark's brow furrows as he scans the room, taking in the tight space. Who's the third? A blur slams into him, knocking him to the floor. A loud, obnoxious laugh echoes through the room. Not so tough after all, huh? Clark struggles, pinned beneath a mop of blonde hair. He twists, grabbing his attacker and flipping him over. Franklin. Clark's face lights up, a wide grin spreading across his features. No way. Franklin Richards, son of Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, laughs from the floor. Surprise, cousin. Clark jumps up, pulling Franklin with him, and the two embrace in a hug. How are you? How's your family? Clark showers him with questions, his enthusiasm bubbling over. Franklin grins as he extricates himself from Clark's grip. Everyone's good. Mom and Dad say hi. They wanted to come see you off, but Dad's got some interdimensional thing going on in the lab. Starts Franklin dusting himself off. Uncle Ben and Johnny are working with the Avengers. Cough. My sister still loves you, cough. What did you say at the end there? Clark asks, confused on the matter. Nothing. The blonde says, smiling. Just a scratch on the throat. Normie snorts from across the room. So oblivious for the son of a photojournalist. Clark slaps Franklin on the back, laughing. This is insane. All 3 of us, together again. Normie, leaning against his desk, smirks. Just like old times, huh? Ready to take on the world, says the ginger with an arrogant smile. You're too young to dominate the world, dude. You're 15, Normie, Franklin says, grinning as he spreads his arms wide, pulling both his friends into a hug. But you're also right. We're going to own this college. Clark chuckles, shaking his head. I don't know about owning, but I think we can make it through just fine, adds Clark. Yep, I can already see it, says Franklin, raising his arm. A peaceful, uneventful college life. What could possibly go wrong?
I hope you enjoyed my work. If you'd like more, check out the links in the video description. Goodbye for now.